The House Oversight Committee chamber was packed to the brim. The air vibrated with a quiet intensity, cameras blinking like watchful eyes, waiting for the first flash of confrontation. C-SPAN's red light blinked alive. At the center table sat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, poised yet fiery, her hands resting on a folder marked Case File, Public Record. Across from her, Karoline Leavitt adjusted her microphone, eyes narrowing as if she were about to deliver a cross-examination rather than a question. The gavel struck once. "Order," came the chair's voice, calm but heavy. "Representative Leavitt, you have the floor." Karoline leaned forward, the papers in her hand trembling just enough for the cameras to notice. "Congresswoman Crockett," she began, her tone syrup-sweet but laced with steel, "you've been quite vocal about financial accountability and transparency. Yet public documents indicate that a $50 million lawsuit was recently filed involving a company linked to your district." A soft murmur rippled across the chamber. Reporters' pens froze mid-air. Karoline continued, her voice rising. "Isn't it true that you've personally defended that same company in the past, despite their alleged misuse of federal grant funds?" The room held its breath. Jasmine didn't flinch. Her eyes met Karoline's with a slow, deliberate calm. Then, in that signature voice, steady but loaded with precision, she said, "Ms. Leavitt, if we're talking about accountability, I'd advise we start by defining it. Because if you're suggesting I've had any involvement in that lawsuit, you're either gravely misinformed," she leaned forward, "or intentionally misleading the public." A ripple of gasps. The chair tapped the gavel again. "Let the witness answer uninterrupted." Karoline smirked. "I'm simply presenting facts." "Facts," Jasmine repeated, her tone slicing through the tension. "Or fragments of a narrative crafted for your next campaign clip." Even the stenographer looked up. Jasmine opened her folder, revealing a document stamped, "Dismissed, Federal District Court." "This so-called $50 million lawsuit," she said, holding it up to the cameras, "was thrown out nearly 8 months ago. No fraud. No corruption. Just another political stunt that failed to survive in the daylight." The audience whispered, phones clicking to capture the moment. Karoline's confident smile faltered slightly. But Jasmine wasn't finished. "What's really interesting," she added, her tone lowering, "is that the very law firm who pushed that lawsuit," she paused, letting the silence expand, "happens to be the same firm that represented one of your largest donors in 2023. The reaction was electric. Gasps. A few audible, "Oh my God" murmurs. Karoline's face tightened. "That's irrelevant." "It's entirely relevant," Jasmine interrupted sharply. "If we're going to sit here and discuss conflicts of interest, then let's not pretend selective memory is a virtue." The chair tried to restore order, but the moment had already ignited. Cameras zoomed in, capturing the split-screen intensity. One woman accusing, the other dismantling. Cut to a close-up on Jasmine. Her expression softened, but her voice carried weight. "People deserve truth, not theatrics. If this hearing is about integrity, I suggest we start practicing it." The gavel pounded twice. "Order. Representative Leavitt, your time has expired." Karoline leaned back, her jaw tight, eyes flicking toward the media pit. She hadn't expected the lawsuit bomb to backfire so fast. Fade to black, the tension lingers, the air thick with anticipation. The gavel's echo faded, but the air didn't relax, it thickened. The audience, the press, even the committee staffers could feel it. Something had shifted. Pam Bondi, sitting a few seats down from Karoline, leaned toward her mic. "Mr. Chair, if I may." The chair hesitated. "Ms. Bondi, you're not recognized." "With all due respect," Pam cut in, her voice crisp and commanding, "this committee has a duty to investigate improprieties, not deliver press sound bites." She glanced directly at Jasmine Crockett. And frankly, Congresswoman Crockett has made quite a career out of both. The jab landed like a dart. Jasmine turned her head slightly, offering a small, knowing smile. "Pam, I appreciate your concern," she said smoothly. "Though coming from someone whose own ethics panel once reviewed undisclosed consulting fees, it's an interesting perspective." The audience gasped audibly. Even Karoline's expression flickered with disbelief. Jasmine had just turned the heat up several notches. Pam straightened, trying not to react. "I'm not the one under scrutiny today," she replied, her tone icy. "No," Jasmine said, her eyes gleaming. "You're just volunteering as tribute." Laughter rippled through the room, quickly silenced by the chair's pounding gavel. "Order! Order! Members will refrain from personal attacks." But the rhythm had already changed. What had started as a standard oversight hearing now felt like a televised duel. Cameras zoomed in tighter. Microphones picked up every exhale, every subtle shift in tone. Pam regained composure. "Let's be clear," she said. "This isn't about me. This is about whether public officials are entangled in private interests that betray the taxpayers' trust." Jasmine nodded slowly, leaning back in her chair. "Then by all means," she said softly, "let's talk about trust." The room fell quiet again. The kind of silence that buzzed with anticipation. "Because while you're quoting ethics manuals," Jasmine continued, "the American people are still waiting for a single bill from this committee that helps them pay their rent, afford health care, or keep their kids safe in school. Instead, we're here, on live TV, playing prosecutor for a lawsuit that doesn't even exist anymore." A few people in the audience clapped before being hushed. Pam's expression hardened. "I won't apologize for holding people accountable," Pam shot back. "Good," Jasmine said, locking eyes. "Then let's both be accountable. Starting with the fact that your own political action committee has received donations from the same lobbying group funding this so-called investigation." The silence that followed was deafening. Pam froze mid-blink, caught between indignation and shock. "Congresswoman Crockett," the chair warned, but Jasmine raised a hand. "No, Mr. Chair, let her respond. The people watching deserve to hear the full story. Not the rehearsed version, the real one." Pam opened her mouth, then closed it. The cameras panned to Karoline, who shifted uncomfortably, realizing her opening attack had unleashed something far more dangerous than she intended. Jasmine leaned forward again, her voice steady but sharper now. "You see, Ms. Leavitt wanted to talk about a $50 million lawsuit," she said. "But what she didn't mention is the 50 million Americans who've lost trust in this body because of political theater like this." That line hit like a hammer. The chair gavelled again. "We will maintain decorum." But even he couldn't hide the crack forming in the committee's composure. Pam looked ready to fire back, but before she could, Jasmine spoke one last line, quiet but lethal. "Pam, the difference between us is simple. You perform accountability. I practice it." Cameras stayed on as microphones caught snippets, murmurs, pacing footsteps, the hum of controlled chaos. The screen fades to black. The room erupted in murmurs. Reporters darted out the back to file quotes before the next soundbite dropped. Karoline leaned toward Pam, whispering, "This isn't going the way we planned." Pam exhaled slowly. "Then we changed the plan." The chair sighed, rubbing his temples. "We'll take a 5-minute recess." The cameras stayed on as microphones caught snippets, murmurs, pacing footsteps, the hum of controlled chaos. The screen fades to black. A new tension brews. The storm is only beginning. When the recess ended, the room felt transformed. The chatter had quieted, but the energy hadn't drained, it had condensed. Cameras repositioned. Microphones glowed red. The chair cleared his throat. "We'll now resume the hearing." Jasmine Crockett was already seated, calm but alert. Across from her, Pam Bondi shuffled through a folder thick with documents, while Karoline Leavitt whispered to an aide. Something was coming. Everyone could feel it. Pam stood, holding up a manila envelope. "Mr. Chair," she began, her tone measured but sharp. "During the break, new material was submitted to the committee, evidence pertaining to the case Congresswoman Crockett referred to as non-existent." Jasmine's eyes narrowed slightly. "Interesting," she murmured. Pam continued, "This," she waved the envelope slowly, "is a copy of the original filing from the $50 million lawsuit. And it appears someone very close to this committee had prior knowledge before it even reached the docket." Gasps rippled across the room. The chair frowned. "Ms. Bondi, that's a serious claim." Pam nodded. "It is. And that's why I'm bringing it here. Transparency." Close-up on Jasmine's face. Unshaken. Pam handed the envelope to a clerk, who passed it to the chair. He glanced through the first few pages, brow furrowing deeper with every line. "Congresswoman Crockett," he said, "would you care to respond?" Jasmine folded her hands, her voice cool. "I would, Mr. Chair, once we all remember that reading a document doesn't make it true, especially when it's missing its verification seal." Pam smirked. "You sure about that?" Jasmine nodded. "Positive. Because I already reviewed the same filing 3 weeks ago, and I rejected it for one reason." She looked directly into the cameras. It was a forgery. The audience broke into a low wave of murmurs. Reporters scribbled like mad. Pam blinked. "A forgery?" "Yes," Jasmine said, voice calm but slicing through the tension like glass. "Filed by a political consultant pretending to represent a non-existent corporation, a front designed to smear anyone who blocked a particular bill. You want the name of that bill?" Pam hesitated. Jasmine didn't wait. "The Freedom Infrastructure Act. The one that would have redirected federal contracts away from private donors." Pam's lips parted, but no words came out. The chair leaned forward, intrigued now. "So what you're suggesting, Congresswoman," he said slowly, "is that this so-called lawsuit was manufactured for political leverage?" Jasmine nodded once. "And distributed to select members of this committee through a private memo group." Karoline looked startled. "That's absurd," she snapped. "Are you accusing us of being part of that?" Jasmine met her gaze. "I'm not accusing," she said. "I'm stating a pattern. And if you check the metadata on that PDF, you'll see exactly who uploaded it first." The room froze. Every camera pivoted toward the chair as he gestured for a staffer to check. Pam's confidence began to waver, a bead of sweat catching light just beneath her temple. Seconds stretched. The staffer whispered something to the chair. His expression changed. He looked stunned. "Ms. Bondi," he said slowly, "it appears this document originated from an account registered to your communications consultant." The audience gasped audibly. Pam went pale. "That's impossible," she said quickly. "My team receives dozens of documents," Jasmine cut in, her voice steel. "And yet this one came from yours first. That's not coincidence. That's coordination." The chair pounded the gavel. "Order! Order!" Reporters were already texting, cameras zooming in tight on Pam's frozen expression. Jasmine leaned forward, tone lower but deadlier. "This is how disinformation spreads, Mr. Chair. A fake lawsuit, an echo chamber, and a televised hearing, all to smear someone who asked the wrong questions." Karoline tried to interject. "You can't just—" "I just did," Jasmine replied, her voice calm, final. Cut to a wide shot. The room is chaos. Members whisper, aides scramble, viewers online are lighting up the feed. The chair sighed. "This committee will verify the authenticity of these documents." But the tone had already shifted. Jasmine had seized control. She gathered her papers, eyes fixed on Pam. "You wanted transparency," she said softly. "Now you've got it." Pam didn't answer. The chair exhaled. "We'll move to the next phase of questioning." As Jasmine leaned back, a small smile flickered across her lips, not of triumph, but certainty. The cameras linger on her face, composed, calculating, ready for whatever comes next. The camera pans slowly across the chamber. The once orderly hearing has descended into an undercurrent of chaos. Aides whispering, reporters murmuring, phones buzzing as headlines spread in real time. Forgery scandal rocks congressional hearing. Pam Bondi's face is tight, her composure slipping with each tick of the clock. Karoline Leavitt adjusts her microphone, jaw clenched, her earlier confidence replaced with something sharper, desperation mixed with pride. The chair leans forward, voice raised. "This hearing will come back to order immediately. Congresswoman Leavitt, you may proceed with your next line of questioning." Karoline takes a deep breath, forcing a smile for the cameras. "Thank you, Mr. Chair." She turns to Jasmine Crockett. "Congresswoman Crockett," she begins, voice steady but cold, You've made some very serious allegations, ones that could damage reputations. Are you suggesting members of this committee knowingly circulated false material? Jasmine doesn't blink. I'm suggesting that someone wanted this committee to act without fact-checking first. Karoline leans forward. That's not an answer, Jasmine. It's the truth. And I don't sugarcoat that for headlines. The air thickens. Every word feels heavier than the last. Karoline's tone rises. Maybe you're just deflecting because that lawsuit is real, and you're afraid the evidence will expose you. Jasmine tilts her head slightly. Expose me? You've been waving around papers you don't even understand, Congresswoman. If you want exposure, try sunlight. It's the best disinfectant. The crowd oaths audibly. The chair bangs the gavel. Order. But Jasmine continues, her voice cutting through the noise. You want to talk about fear? Fear is what drives false narratives. Fear of losing influence. Fear of the truth making it out of this building. Karoline's patience cracks. So now you're calling this entire process a sham? Jasmine smirks faintly. I'm calling it what it is, theater. And you just missed your cue. Laughter ripples faintly through the audience, quickly silenced by the gavel. Pam Bondi, unable to stay silent any longer, stands abruptly. This is outrageous, she shouts. You can't sit here and insult fellow members like this while deflecting from your own misconduct. Jasmine swivels toward her, slow, deliberate. My misconduct? Ms. Bondi, the only misconduct here is tampering with the truth. You brought forged evidence into a congressional hearing, and now you want to hide behind outrage. Pam's voice wavers but rises again. You're twisting facts to make yourself look righteous. Jasmine leans in, eyes burning but her tone icy calm. No. I'm revealing facts you didn't expect anyone to verify. Camera zooms in on both faces, inches apart across the table, neither backing down. Karoline slams her folder shut. You've crossed a line, Crockett. You think you're untouchable, but Congress still has rules. Jasmine. Rules? The same ones that let fabricated cases hit the floor before truth ever does. The chair pounds the gavel again. Enough. Both of you will conduct yourselves appropriately. Silence. Only the sound of a pen rolling off a desk. Pam sits, breathing heavily, eyes darting toward her counsel. Karoline sits too, but her stare never leaves Jasmine. The chair sighs deeply. This committee will recess again for 10 minutes. But before he can strike the gavel, Jasmine speaks one more time. Soft, but it echoes across the room. Recess all you want. The truth doesn't take breaks. The gavel hits. Cut to black. The hearing room bursts into noise as the recess begins. Reporters swarm, cameras flash, aides rush papers across tables. Outside the chamber, news alerts begin to roll in. Forgery scandal deepens. Key evidence questioned. Inside, Jasmine stands still amid the chaos. Calm, centered, but her eyes glint with fire. Pam and Karoline whisper frantically in a corner, their composure fracturing under pressure. Pam's hand trembles as she grips her coffee cup. Then, a soft voice from behind, a junior aide approaches Jasmine. Ma'am, there's something you should see. She turns. What is it? The aide hands her a phone, showing a headline, Leaked email links political consultant to Bondi's office. Jasmine reads it silently. Then, without a word, she places the phone on the table and exhales. The camera tightens on her face. She knows this isn't over. Not yet. But now, she holds the leverage. The scene opens moments after recess. The congressional hearing reconvenes. The room is quieter, but the silence feels heavier than before, like air before a thunderstorm. The chair straightens his glasses, tone strict. This committee is back in session. I expect professionalism from everyone as we continue. Pam Bondi sits rigidly, pretending calm, but her eyes flick nervously toward the cameras. Karoline Leavitt looks determined yet uneasy, her earlier sharpness now tinged with doubt. Across the table, Jasmine Crockett calmly reviews a folder, pen in hand, every movement deliberate. The chair nods. Congresswoman Crockett, you have the floor. Jasmine doesn't immediately speak. Instead, she holds up a printed email, the same one her aide showed her moments earlier. Before we continue, Mr. Chair, I need to submit this document into record. Karoline frowns. What's that? Jasmine slides the paper across the table. This, she says quietly, is an email linking the consulting firm that drafted the so-called lawsuit directly to Pam Bondi's communications team. The entire room freezes. Whispers ripple instantly. Cameras zoom in. Pam's face drains of color. That's absurd. That's fake. Jasmine, without raising her voice. Really? Because this email came from the firm's own server, time-stamped and authenticated. The same firm that created the documents you presented this morning. Karoline leans forward, stunned. Wait, are you saying? Jasmine interrupts, tone sharp as glass. I'm saying a $50 million lawsuit was built on fabricated material, and the fingerprints lead straight to the same office that tried to use it for political theater. Pam stands, voice trembling. You can't prove that, Jasmine. I just did. The room erupts. Reporters stand up, shouting over each other. The chair slams the gavel repeatedly. Order. Order in this chamber. But Jasmine's voice cuts through the chaos like thunder. For weeks, this committee has been paraded with false evidence. While the country watches, people outside this room are losing faith in every word we speak here. So if someone in this chamber thought they could weaponize lies and get away with it, she pauses. Her gaze pierces straight into Pam Bondi's trembling face. They just learned what truth feels like when it finally hits back. The room falls dead silent. Not even the cameras move. Karoline's lips part slightly, like she wants to respond, but she can't find the words. Pam sits down slowly, eyes glassy, her hand clutching the edge of the table. Jasmine doesn't gloat. She simply gathers her papers, her tone now low but steady. This isn't about me, she says, almost softly. It's about accountability. And for once, it's not selective. She turns to the chair. I yield back the remainder of my time. The chair nods slowly. There's respect in his eyes now. The record will reflect your submission, Congresswoman Crockett. As she sits, the cameras flash again, reporters whispering furiously into microphones. Bombshell in Congress. Email links Bondi's team to forged lawsuit. Pam Bondi stares blankly ahead, the confident prosecutor image shattered in real time. Karoline buries her face in a document, pretending to read, but her hands are shaking. Cut to Jasmine's face, calm, composed, victorious, but not arrogant. Behind her, the faint reflection in the committee window shows the American flag. Still, silent, steady. The chair gavels the session closed. This hearing is adjourned. Bang. The gavel echoes like a gunshot. Pam's head lowers. Jasmine stands, gathers her notes, and walks out as the press surges forward. Each camera flash freezes her in motion, a storm of noise behind her, but she never looks back. Outside, the steps of the Capitol are a battlefield of microphones and flashing lights. Reporters shout questions. Congresswoman Crockett, what happens next? Do you plan to call for a criminal inquiry? Jasmine stops at the top of the stairs, looks directly into one camera, and answers with a calm, unwavering voice. You can't silence the truth with paperwork. Not anymore. She walks down the steps, her figure shrinking into the noise of shouting journalists. In the distance, Pam Bondi remains inside, cornered, pale, watching her empire of rhetoric crumble. Exterior, Capitol Hill. 2 hours later. The golden light of sunset paints the marble steps in shades of amber and crimson. Reporters still linger outside, their voices blending into the hum of generators and camera clicks. The words email leak, forgery, and Bondi scandal flash on the scrolling tickers of news vans. Inside the nearly empty hearing room, the remnants of chaos remain. Papers scattered, microphones tilted, nameplates askew. The echo of the gavel still seems to vibrate in the walls. Jasmine Crockett stands near the witness table, now empty. She watches a janitor quietly gather the mess of discarded notes and folders. remnants of a day that shook the room. Her aide, Malik, enters, holding a phone. "Congresswoman, the networks have it running wall to wall. Even Fox is looping your statement." Jasmine nods slightly, not smiling, just absorbing. "And Bondi?" Malik hesitates. Her team released a statement saying the documents were misinterpreted by an external contractor. But people aren't buying it. Jasmine exhales deeply, setting her notes into her briefcase. "Truth has its own PR department," she mutters, a half-smile flickering for the first time that day. Malik grins. "You realize you just turned a $50 million headline into a $50 million backfire?" Jasmine looks up, eyes steady. "No. I turned it into accountability, something this place keeps misplacing." The camera pans slowly across the empty chairs, the placards with names like Karoline Leavitt and Pam Bondi still sitting there, untouched, like silent witnesses to their own undoing. Cut to Pam Bondi's office. Dim light, curtains drawn. She stares at her reflection in the black screen of a laptop. Her phone buzzes endlessly with missed calls. She mutters to herself, voice shaking, "They'll forget by tomorrow. They always do." But the faint sound of reporters shouting her name outside contradicts her words. Pam's hand trembles slightly as she closes the blinds. Back to the Capitol steps. Jasmine is now surrounded by journalists. Microphones thrust toward her, camera flashes firing like lightning. One reporter shouts, "Congresswoman, are you planning to file an ethics complaint?" She stops, turns to face the cameras, her tone calm but resonant. Right now, the American people don't need more hearings. They need leaders who stop playing courtroom for clicks. A murmur ripples through the press line. Another voice asks, "Do you think this marks a turning point in political accountability?" Jasmine tilts her head thoughtfully, then responds, "I think it marks a turning point in how long lies last when truth finally gets a microphone." She turns and begins walking away again, her figure bathed in the orange glow of the Capitol sunset. The camera follows her steps in slow motion, each one deliberate, confident, unstoppable. As she reaches her car, Malik opens the door. "Where to now, Congresswoman?" She glances back at the glowing Capitol dome behind her, the symbol of the system she just rattled. "Back to work," she says simply. She gets in. The car door closes. The camera lingers on the Capitol for a few seconds longer, the sky now turning violet, the flag fluttering faintly in the evening breeze. Power can hide behind politics for a while. But the truth? Truth always finds the light. Fade out.